Hey everybody, welcome back to a brand new season of 20 minutes as usual. Glad to have you back here and we are fully in the off-season mode. If you haven't figured that out by now, certainly the season is over and past and now it's time for off-season stuff and exciting 7-on-7 in the middle of winter and all that fun stuff we do for high school football, but couldn't think of a better guest to start off a new season of 20 minutes and someone that I've had the pleasure of knowing for a long time. And just recently, I tell you what, it pays to book guest early because he probably would have upped his rate if he would have known he was been named a Hall of Famer. But Tim Racki from Nazareth Academy, named by the Illinois High School Football Coaches Association as a Hall of Famer. Congratulations, Hall of Famer.
Thank you, Edgy. Yeah, it's quite an honor.
Surprise you, or do you have a feeling it was coming and just kind of hit you upside the head? Not that you haven't had anything going on over the last 3 months or so.
Yeah, right. No, I figured I get you get the emails every year about who's inducted into the Hall of Fame. This one, and so I never knew. I figured. I figured with all the successful teams I've been with, there's a possibility. So when it happened, I'm going to be honest. When it happened, it was emotional. When I took that call, it really made me feel good, and it really made me reflect. Really, from my first year as a head coach at Driscoll all the way through, I just sat there for about 15 minutes reflecting on all the great players and coaches that if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Well, again, you mentioned both schools, and you got to touch on both because they're such a big part of your story. You started at Driscoll Academy, 7 years, ended up with a 76-13 record, 4 state titles, by the way, at Driscoll. That was back to back to back to back. So no small feat for you over at Driscoll. And then 19 years at Naz, that still kind of blows my mind. It doesn't seem like it's been 19 years, but
I was thinking about you too. I think when did you start?
Like right at the beginning of your Naz,
right?
Your Driscoll,
or even when I was a DC, right? One of my young guys who was into computers mentioned you like way back when, and hey, this guy is doing a high school, promoting high school football, and here we both are. It's pretty cool too.
Well, what was really strange because at the time I was working downtown at the Merc. And there were a few assistant coaches that were also trading at the Merc. And then they find out who I am. I find out who they are. And it opened up this whole damn world of guys that were trading in the pits, getting off at 2:00, going out and coaching football. I was amazed at how many connections that I knew that I didn't know that I actually knew. So it all ties into that group. You guys at Driscoll and then Chris over Montini. It seemed like that whole West Catholic school connection was crazy back then in the day. Just all those guys that you run to, and you mentioned, and in 19 years at Naz, 151 and 65, 5 state titles. Again, so 227 and 78 overall, 26 years, 9 state titles, pal. You can't do much more than that. I mean, it's already been a hell of a run. And what do you got? 18 returning starters back for next year.
Yeah, it'd be nice not to make it as dramatic as it has been the past 2 years.
We'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that. But so you mentioned when you got the call and thinking back. I mean, who are some of those people you thought of? I mean, a wide spectrum for sure.
Oh yeah, well, Rod Molick, who was the principal at the time, and he called me. I was at Southern Illinois, and so I had a choice. I had a real nice job that I could have had in pharmaceuticals or going to teaching and coaching. I was doing grad work at SIU, and I thought, I had a minor in education. I thought this is a good time to try my hat at teaching and coaching. And so I jumped in there, and Rod Molick really took care of me. And like I said, he along with Bill Euphrasia and Rich Marks, coached me during my high school football career. So those are 3 key figures. as well. And then Mike Brazawa, I was a young head coach. I was on the fast track in my coaching career because I was a defensive coordinator, varsity, my second year, which is unheard of these days. And then Mike Brazawa was never a varsity offensive coordinator. So my first year as a head coach, I put Buzz on staff. He was a sophomore defensive coordinator, and I made him offensive coordinator for the varsity. And people looked at me like I was crazy. And we went on that run, and we made it look like we knew what we were doing. And then Dennis Moran, after my Driscoll tenure, I met with Dennis Moran, who him and I became friendly during 7-on-7s, and we would play Nazareth when I was at Driscoll. And incredible man. So we developed a friendship. And when he became president at Nazareth, that's when he recruited me, and he had this vision. And I still remember, I think it was somebody on your blog that said it was career suicide when I first made that job.
Should have saved it. Could have printed it out and saved it.
Right. So Dennis, and then of course so many coaches. Ironically, Dan Sharp, who I'm friends with to this day, he called me because it was, people don't realize, losing as a coach, a lot of us go through that, but having that much early success as a head coach, it was not easy at all for me. And Dan Sharp called me out of the blue, and I knew who he was. He was a legend already at that time, and asked me how I was doing, and said, it was a sigh of relief, because I was like, "Thank you, Coach. Yeah, it's not easy. It's very stressful." So we developed a friendship from there, and then obviously I ended up playing Joliet Catholic when I jumped to Nazareth, and he was a key figure as well. But this is really what got me here were my players and coaches. But I'm dedicating it to my family, because, as you know, my wife, Marcia, is incredible. And, during the early years when you're never home, there's no huddle, and you're doing DVDs and even some VHS tapes. You need that support system that knows when it's football season, they become a football widow. And of course, my kids, Jake and Nick, and my brothers as well, because if they didn't kick my butt when I was younger, I would have been had a passion for football. Daryl, Mike, and Stan.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned family, and you're right. I mean, you can't do half of what you've been able to do. Let's face it. First of all, you've been married for forever, like I've been, so that you've already overcome the odds there already. And then you throw in your demanding stuff, and by the way, you want to have a nice conversation with your wife, tell her you're going to quit your Fortune 500 job to run your website. See how well that goes. And if you don't, if your wife doesn't love you after that conversation, and she's still there and hasn't packed up and left, then she might be a keeper. So I could totally relate as well, going through that. But again, just absolutely thrilled for you, and well deserved, and just enjoy it. I know you won't, but just like the state titles, you probably don't enjoy it enough, but enjoy it a little bit.
I know I have. But really, because that's the other thing. It's more about, to me, I just love team success in football. I had, when I was young, even youth ball in high school, I got these personal accolades that were great. And then the next day you're seeing your buddies playing the playoffs, or other schools or teams go to the playoffs and win championships. And I was always like, man, that's what I want. Keep these things. I want to be on a title team.
Yep.
And now I know what that takes. And it's just like, I have a role, and that's it. Like, it's not Tim Racki's 9 state titles. I'm blessed. I'm the mouthpiece, and I get it. I've been doing it long enough. I'm going to take the bullets when I deserve them, and even when I don't, for my team. But when we are successful, it's going to be because of all the men and players around me.
Your staff you have now, and really, I think this goes across your career. You've been blessed to have some great people on those staffs, and you've been blessed to have a lot of stability in that group as well. How does that happen?
I say it every year. It's the one thing that I am not afraid to brag about. I'm very I've been very good and blessed at picking coaches that A, buy into my philosophy about football, and B, I give them ownership, because when I alluded to, I was a young coach and I had some mentors, but I was a defense coordinator at a young age. I didn't have many mentors. So I was at clinics, books, and I loved it because I got to make it my own. And so the defense, where I was running the 3-5 before, a lot of schools were at Driscoll, where I found it in some little manual. And so having that ownership. So when I became a head coach, I wasn't going to micromanage. I would get involved, but you own it. And it was a win-win for the coaches, because if they're not succeeding, I'm taking the bullets. If they do, I'm saying, hey, Casey Moran, Keith Lukes, and then I can say they did a great job, which they do. And, just like Buzz was with me. So I'm really good at putting a group of guys, coaches together that buy into what I'm selling.
Yeah, the stability factor is it's unheard of these days. It really is. So again, that's a credit to you and how you run that program, and giving those guys enough leash to do what they do. And, it's definitely seems to be the way to go. 2023, repeat basically at 2024. You get off to a slow start. You play an unbelievably tough early schedule. 0-4, that cannot be a good feeling on that field after you just lost your fourth game in a row. Talk about that period and getting out of it. You found a way again this year to find a way to fight out of that 0-4 and to wind up winning a state title.
Well, it's ironic you say that, because after that IC loss, I was anything but depressed, or where are we, what are we going to do? I remember after that game, we took them, we were at IC, so we took them to that baseball field, right next to where the field is, and because I wanted to be isolated, because we didn't have our captain, Brendan Flanagan, with us, a huge defensive piece. And he gave a very emotional talk at our prayer service. And, I didn't know what to expect. I was just hoping that these kids would compete. And not only did we compete, we from the past 3 games, it was a different team. We were competing, we were hitting, we were being physical, we were confident, and this is without the captain. So I told them, listen, I was like, it might not seem like it, and this is going to seem crazy to the outside world, we're 0-4, but that's all they're going to see. What I'm seeing and what you have to believe is we have something here. And this is happening for a reason. So let's be patient and let's just keep doing what we're doing. And we'll talk about it tomorrow, which we did on Saturday. And from there we took off. Week 9 was a different story. That was another.
Well, that's what I was going to get to, because so you go in, you rattle off 4 wins, so you get to 500. You're at 4-4. Huge week 9, St. Francis. It's always going to be a big game when these two guys go after it. 4-4. Got to get the 5 wins. It's everyone. Got to get the 5 wins. Got to get that 5th one. Well, you get there, 4-5. First of all, did you have a direct line to Susie to find out how many 4-5s are going to get in? How did you handle that with your kids? Did you just tell your kids to watch the pairing show? How did you handle that point after that week 9 loss, and probably a horribly, horribly nervous 24 hours or so after that loss?
I was very brief and, saying, we might get in, we might not. Because I was more angry after that game, and not because we lost. I never get angry when we lose, except when it's for reasons why I believe contributed to that loss on Friday night, and because I saw uncharacteristic behavior from my team and from players, and just they were off, and it not playing like everything that we've been doing for the past 8 weeks.
What was it? Were they pressing? Was it?
Oh yeah, they were pressing. They were trying to do it all on their own, as individuals, out of the game plan, kind of snapping at each other, which is a cardinal sin in my program. So it was a long lecture, not about losing, but about what Nazareth football is all about, regardless if we win or lose. And so I didn't even sleep that night. And so I had him come in on Saturday. And before I even had that team meeting, more than a few members and key members and leaders on the team sought me out, and they were accountable in terms of why they were off. And this is what happened. Because these, which Edge, they compete against 7-on-7. These kids all know each other now.
Yeah, they know each other, yeah, for sure.
So if it's a receiver, a DB, a lineman, you're going to want it almost becomes like a showcase instead of a football game.
Yeah,
and you get a little rattled, and you don't do what got you there to that point. And it actually ended. That's what I mean. That's the week 4, the 0-4, and then the week 9, because I felt a lot better even before the meeting. I said, now I get it, and I said more so. I'm proud of you guys, because as a teenager coming to me before the meeting, where I'm going to say, because I told my top guys, I go, what the hell was that? What happened? It's not us.
Yeah.
And they told me, and I said, okay, now I feel better. So, and I did. I went home that Saturday afternoon, and I said, we're gonna be just fine. And sure enough, we had a kick butt week of practice before Prairie Ridge. They were locked in, and away we went.
Yeah, and I mean, again, just an amazing run, and I mean, Prairie Ridge to open. I mean, that's, okay, here's the worst possible draw you can have in this class in the first round. There you go, guys. And if I'm Chris Schremp, I'm not real happy with that draw either. Let's be honest. That's
I mean, they had our number. I mean, in the playoffs, they had our number in the state title game a few years back. But this was different because of how the affect, because of the week 9 and the reset, where it wasn't us, and we all knew collectively, okay, and where I said, okay, now we know what we did wrong. Now we're not bringing this 4 and 5 with us. We got the most playoff points in the state. We play the toughest schedule, hands down, out of any class, any team in any class. Let's go get it done. So that happened for a reason. Comment made me look semi-smart, because you're getting beat up for 9 weeks.
Yep.
And now it's just like, all right, here we go. Another 48, another fight, number 1, number 2 seed. So what? Let's go. Let's play football.
That'd be a huge boost, though. Beating them round 1. Had to be.
And this team needed that. And I truly believe that first, because beating this many, and I was trying to think, you probably know more than I, but we beat like really good teams on this run.
You beat some teams that could have very easily won a state title.
What's
easily.
That?
You beat some teams that easily could have wound up being the state champion.
Absolutely, yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And you mentioned, and one of the other games that, again, it was close. You find a way to pull out the win, but Carmel, that playoff game against Carmel, I had a chance to see them against Antioch, and just thought, wow, you and them is going to be like just clash of the Titans, and it turned out to be that kind of a game.
Oh yeah, what a great atmosphere. The big thing and again, because of all these games, we would be down. We would never, because we were so used to being down, or we knew what it was like to lose. We weren't afraid to lose, because we know what that's like, but we also know we've been playing tough teams for a full game. And when you do that, that experience is invaluable within a season, where you're like, okay, now, that was us then, this is what I learned now. And you don't panic because of that experience, and because it's one of those, you've been there, done that.
And of course, by design, you're trailing 20-7 at halftime in the 5A state title game. Right according to your script all year, you guys are trailing. So, and then you come right back and bounce back, and just an unbelievable, like you said, totally different team in the second half. Took care of business and brought home a state trophy. I mean, unbelievable.
Keith
Lewis, it all clicked. It just looked like it all clicked in the second half for you.
Oh, I knew before talking to Coach Luke's my defensive coordinator, and Coach Moran, my offensive coordinator. I saw us starting to get our sea legs underneath us, because when you play any type of offense like Joliet Catholic or even Prairie Ridge, it's going to take a while to catch up. You're not going to have a scout team or a practice team be able to simulate the timing, the speed, getting off the ball. So I knew it would take a while. So, and then when I saw Logan getting confidence in the second quarter and the offense getting a rhythm, I saw momentum there. And then seeing our defense really start to get together. And then the adjustments that we made at halftime that Keith and the defensive group did was just amazing, because shutting that team out in the second half. I know the running back was injured, which talk about that kid. I love that.
Yeah.
He played on one leg where he could have easily tapped out. I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to mention, I forgot his name. It was
H.J. Grigsby.
Yeah, he outstanding. That's football right there.
You have it is such a unique group you have there. I mean, and I think you realize how special that group is, and they continue to prove it every year. I mean, you've got guys that have already won back-to-back state titles in their juniors in high school.
I know, right?
Ridiculous.
I know.
I mean, at this point, I mean, you just point them in the direction and tell them to go, or I mean, they're
still kids. They're still kids,
but they've been through this, and they've been through it a couple of times now. Are they going to finally learn and not do this next year? Or are they going to do the same damn thing next year?
Yeah, one of my players is like, Coach, should we just lose the first 5 next year? I said, how about a goal of not losing a game?
How about that? Wouldn't that be something?
Try to go undefeated if you can. That'd be
nice. Logan, I mean, you've coached some competitive kids, but have they been any more of a competitor than him?
Well, he's had some great models. J.J. McCarthy's pretty good competitor.
Yeah.
Carson Bartels. I've been blessed with a lot of great competitive quarterbacks, and Carson is absolutely in that team photo. And actually, he's got a little more cred because I've never played a freshman. And I don't know if you remember, I threw him in when we're down at Notre Dame, again, almost going to be eliminated. And I had to put him in it and tell him at halftime. But he hugged me, grabbed me, he almost crushed my spine, smiled, and he brought us back from a deficit, and he's never looked back.
Yeah, just unbelievable what he brings to the table. And on the defensive side, I mean, look, we could talk about your whole damn lineup, honestly. But the other one that just jumped out to me this year, and he really has since he's been a starter on the varsity, is Gabe Kaminsky. I mean, Timmy, he gets better every year. I mean, every year you see the confidence growing in him.
That's the state game.
Unstoppable.
His state game. That's where the colleges are coming in. I mean, he's going to go wherever he wants. And I told him, you see the state game, because we finally, the one thing I'll take credit for is getting his butt to linebacker for a little bit, because everybody running away from him. That's another funny story. But you see when he plays linebacker how versatile he is. I mean, having that pick, and usually he's sacking the quarterback, and now he's intercepting the quarterback. He's that good and that versatile. It's amazing. I've never had a freshman either be all conference on the line either. And this conference, I mean, being all conference as a freshman in this conference, amazing.
26 years in, is there a number for you or no?
No.
Good. No. Me neither.
It's gonna.
I'll let you know when I set a number. I'll let you know. But
okay, I'll tell you what, because I will say week 3, I thought maybe I'm losing
a little early. Yeah.
I thought I was going to be at the Ohio State-Michigan game this year in September.
Yeah. No, it's I don't blame you. I mean, you still love it. It's obvious. And God knows after what you put up with the last couple of years, you gotta hope that gets a little bit better, I would think. Now, to be fair, I saw your schedule for 2024. It's not going to get any easier.
Well, which one, the district one or the?
No. We'll get in that in a minute, but the pre-district one that you have hopefully lined up, It's not, Tim. It's not going to get any easier this
Oh
year.
no, Mount Carmel week 3.
Right. It's like, come on, really? You know what? What have you filled week 2 yet, or are you still waiting to hear back from Ohio State or Michigan?
Right? Yeah, no, we haven't filled week 2. That's I mean, we've been 5-4 and 4-5, and
that's fine. Yeah.
With.
But to be fair, it seems to work for you in the postseason.
Amen. It does. It does. Even though it ages me about 35 years more than the usual season.
You know, it is what it is at this point. It's unbelievable, and again, thrilled for you and your kids and your program. And very strange this year. I did not see you play this year. Very strange. Just didn't happen this year. I mean, I saw you. I watched you. I believe it or not, this face did TV. I was on TV for your state title game, but physically seeing you in person, I didn't see you this year.
I know. I wasn't going to say anything, but since you said, I mean, what's the deal?
It wasn't on purpose. I'm coming week 1. I'm coming this year. I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care if
KKT. It's going to be a good one.
I don't care if they got 27 All-Americans. I don't care. I'm coming. I'll be there. All right. Well, you started it, so let's talk about districts. All right. Enough said. Let's move on. No, I agree. I mean, first of all, you're really telling people to vote on something they don't know what's in it. Really? Again? That's all I can say.
Well, I saw 2 models, and the one thing.
Oh yeah.
So if we play 4 CPS schools, and I love all those coaches. Every time we play CPS, those guys, what they have to do compared to what I mean, they are 5-star coaches, top shelf.
You get it, 100%. Yep.
And but with the resources and the lack of numbers, when you play, it's just not a fair competitive game for either side. No. And then I know downstate with the travel issues and then, but obviously I'm biased because I feel we're the best conference in the state,
right?
And we play great football, and it's competitive and fun for the kids, and it's a great environment. But I guess if they're looking at what's good for the whole, I'm even trying to see like how is that? Is it just make scheduling easier? I don't know.
I guess I don't know. I think there's so many things that we don't know. And again, to me, it's just the starting point is no one knows what's really in this. I mean, yeah, you've got models, but God loves Steve Soucy, and he's putting his heart into everything, but he's the only one trying to come up with some kind of answer. You talk to people that presented this thing, they can't even give you answers on stuff. They don't know what it's going to look like. So,
well, Soucy was the one that said who I thought we would play after the state game.
Right.
Outside the press room. He's like, hey, districts who I think, and I was like, what? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I hope it does not pass. I don't know, Tim, the more I talk to people, the better feel I get that I don't think it's going to pass, that I think a lot of people were very surprised when they saw examples of what it could have looked like the first time. A lot of those people were on board the first time. They're not this time around. So that's where I'm getting my encouragement from. So
you're getting more feedback than I, so that makes me feel better.
Yeah. And then finally, the never-ending issue, and it always pops up around state final time, and it always gets people yakking back and forth and social media fired up back and forth, public versus private. Will it ever come to a vote? Will they ever bring it to a vote or no? Because at this point, that's the only thing that's left, honestly. I mean, I think it'd be the worst thing they'd ever did if they separated public and private, but I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't, I'm not one to talk because I've never been in a selfish way because I've been doing this so long and it's been talked about every year. That's the one almost regret, which I'm like, you know what? I want to try it and be like, I mean, there's got to be, I got to keep my own house from burning down, but I mean, for me, it would be a challenge, and I wouldn't back down, and I certainly wouldn't want to back down. I mean, Prairie Ridge beat us. I mean, public schools have beaten us.
Yeah.
So I really the chatter. I actually turn it off. It's because I've been hearing it for so long, as you know. So it goes in one ear out the other. If they do split it, I think it would be unfortunate. But if that's what the majority wants, I guess. But
yeah, I like I said, I hope it never comes down to it, because I just think it would be a detriment on many, many different levels. And, and I feel good where we're at right now as a sport, especially coming out of COVID and everything else that we've dealt with. I know you can attest to this. I think we're seeing numbers that are up generally across the board. We're seeing more momentum, I think, coming back to football, which I think is a great thing. But the last thing I think anyone should do right now is try to derail any of the momentum you're making in football. And I think if you tried to push that through, I think it would.
And also, we're talking high school kids, and you're taking when you start highlighting public versus private. So you're basically telling teenage boys that put a lot of work in that that it's not their title, or it just I don't know. So a lot of it, I could see the argument, but I guess the sour grapes argument really turns me off. But again, I know they're going to say, easy for you to say, Racki, you're at a private school. And like I said.
Yep. All right. Well, that'll be the never-ending debate that hopefully we'll debate, and nothing will ever change, and we'll stay the way they are. Hey, I appreciate you taking time as always. Just congrats again. Congrats on the Hall of Fame and the state titles, and keep it rolling, my friend.
Hey, and I want to thank you for everything you've done since, we've been on this journey together, and what you've done. And I talk to everybody, and everybody that loves Illinois high school football coaching or fan or family-wise loves you. So thank you, Edge.
Hey. Glad to do it, pal. Hope to do it for much, much longer. Like I said, I have no date at all. I'm just going to keep doing it. If I wake up one day and it's not fun to do anymore, I'm not going to do it. But
you're going to crush our entire state if you do that. Midwest.
Hey, ain't coming anytime soon. Believe me, she's upstairs. She won't let me do anything.
All right, good.
All right, Tim Racki joining us, and again, thanks everybody. We appreciate you stopping by, and check back next week. We'll have another guest for you. And again, just thanks to Tim Racki for joining.